Okay. Why is? Oh, I see. Oh, we did this.
Oh, no, you're live streaming right now.
It's okay.
Okay.
All right, let's see what we can accomplish quickly. 122.
Jay, my microphone, please. Thank you. You have a reprint on your desk for this one. It initially came in, I'll just describe it as amended because it's different. This would be now applicable to Baltimore City only, and it deals with a property tax exemption for both local and state property tax purposes. Right now, in order to receive the exemption, if you're a religious or educational purposes building nonprofit, it has to actually be used by the owner. What this reprint would do is say for those types of properties in Baltimore City, if, for instance, the easiest way to explain it, if a church owns the property and would be eligible for the exemption, but the church is leasing it to another church, without this bill, that exemption would not flow through. They would. So this bill allows essentially a church to lease to a church and still get the property tax exemption for Baltimore City only. Sorry, the exemption would apply both to state and local taxes, but for properties in Baltimore City.
So Rosebeth.
Just a quick question. That's all the bill does now.
Correct.
Thank you.
Senator McCray.
Sorry.
So it's religious group or organization, like, help me, like, how do we define or like the organization part of it?
So if you look back on page 1 of the reprint, this is the substance of the exemption. It's owned by a religious group or organization if it's actually used for worship, parsonage, or convent, or at the top of the next page, educational purposes.
Are you telling me to look at this or not?
Yes.
And what line are you reading?
At the bottom, basically line 17 through line 1 on the next page. So it's more about the use as opposed to the ownership.
Yes, Senator.
Sorry about that. Run around like a wild rabbit today. So the third party does not pay taxes if they are being used for the 3 purposes that are stated here.
Not necessarily. So, I mean, in theory, in a leasing situation, the owner of the property is charging rent for the next one, for the third party to use it. The bill is silent as to whether the owner needs to pass on any savings resulting from this bill to the tenant.
The organization that we're talking about here, is that a 501c or is it for profit?
So this code section doesn't say. Let me see if another one does. It's just not in the bill.
Does that have a cross out too?
The cross.
One is not noted on here. No,
These are the amendments from the sponsor, right?
correct.
Did we get a city letter?
No, because it came in statewide originally, so it wasn't on the list, but now that it's amended as Baltimore City.
So the organization can be for profit.
I'm checking the code section.
Okay,
One second.
thank you. I'm sorry
Yep.
about that.
No, that's okay.
Interrupted. Whew.
It's now just Baltimore City. Baltimore City only. For what it's worth. But we don't have a letter.
Look like the city did come. Right.
Yes.
Well, I'm remembering the wrong bill. I thought last year when we discussed it, the issue that the sponsor had was with the church leasing to a non-church.
Yes,
right.
so
I thought
on,
that was the point of the bill. It seems like the reverse.
so under the bill as it was introduced, correct, but only if, wait, hold on. Restate your question, please.
I thought the original intent of the bill was to deny the tax exemption if it was being leased to a non-church. I thought that was the problem they were trying to solve.
And that continues under this
It
bill.
continues on this bill. It's just the amendment that deals with the church to church thing.
Yes. Educational purposes is also, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, now I understand. Thank you.
Yes, I caught that too.
So yes, this provision, there's another provision that this one is not touching that deals with 501c3s. So this one is silent as to the type of organization that might be owning this property. So in theory, yes, it could be for profit.
Could be for profit.
Correct.
Well, that would seem to contradict the point of the bill. But
Sounds like we might be a little uncomfortable with this still. No, you're not. Not, it's not about understanding.
So, you know, who everybody else is renting up into the piece of it. I don't have a problem with it because the city did come in and support it. But I am trying to figure out like who's everybody. It's not just release.
You,
I'm sorry.
you're on.
No, I said I'm okay because the city did come in with a letter of testimony, but understanding who's the educational folks. I got a university in my district. I got people that could be impacted by this, and I don't know from that standpoint when we make it a Baltimore City only bill.
I think I'm going to retract what I just said, because I think if you read religious as modifying both group and organization, it could be read as owned by a religious group or a religious organization. And the educational purposes would refer to things like like Sunday school or some of them have a K-12 school.
So the University of Baltimore or things of that nature wouldn't be impacted by something like this.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Senator McCray, would you like to clarify it that way in the language?
I don't know if it slows it down or things of that nature. So
Everything, I mean, at this point, if we don't vote
wouldn't-
something, it's slowed down.
Yeah, that'll speed it up.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't slow it down because it's already coming in with amendment. It would just be a revised amendment if that's the will of the committee.
I don't mind the religious piece of it, but I'm just trying to get an understanding with a city with a number of universities saying
Yeah,
educational purposes.
well, plus for-profit universities. Those exist. I think the intent is religious, I think that's I can tell, which I'm very comfortable with.
Sarah Heaven,
Mr. Chairman, I remember talking to the, and I would certainly clarify this with the sponsor, but I remember talking about this with the sponsor when he first came in with it. And my understanding is it was trying to get at the property tax, trying to get property taxes from those institutions that were religious institutions that were renting out to totally non-religious purposes, that the city was foregoing lots of property tax revenue because of that. And this is a way to close that loophole.
Right.
That's my understanding. So he didn't seem to have a problem because I had talked to folks who I worked with him on this amendment. He didn't seem to have a problem if there was a nexus to the purpose for which they were getting the tax exemption and for the religious institution's mission, then that was fine. But if it was sort of outside the scope of that, that's where this was meant to close that loophole.
I think clarification.
you think it is?
I think it's important.
All right, yeah. Well, then we're gonna need to hold it. We've got two more bills we got to get done.
So let me try to get there. If a chartered school decides to use a facility that is owned by the church,
I have one of them.
they don't have to pay any taxes.
The property owner does not pay taxes.
But the chartered school has to pay taxes.
No. No, when you rent, you don't pay taxes unless that those taxes are already worked into your rent costs. There's no outside taxes to renting a property.
So that's a part of that fits under the umbrella of organization.
It would be in the contract between the property owner and the,
Chartered school.
correct.
And so the chartered school's the third party under this amendment would not have to pay any taxes.
They wouldn't under
Any-
most circumstances. There could be a contract that talks specifically about paying of taxes, but it's unlikely. They would not, correct.
Would not.
Okay, we have two more bills we gotta do. If you need something to clarify, we can't do that right now. Senator McCray?
Let me give us some authority.
Okay, all right, two more bills. Philip,
Senate Bill 848, you all are secondary on this. This is a bill that would create a state housing voucher program. I believe the reason you're secondary, each has voted this. There was a mandated appropriation to the program for 3 years of $15 million starting in fiscal
Sorry.
25 through 27.
right, that's the part we should be concentrating on.
And that will be on page 12. And then the only other change on that, as introduced, the bill specified that DHCD shall have distribute 1% of the funding for public housing agencies to defray staffing expenses. That's amended to increase to 6%. The concept is basically to create a parallel state program because the wait lists for the federal housing voucher program are so high. Actually, in some cases, they're so high, they've actually closed the wait lists. So the concept is to help people that are on those wait lists with a parallel state program.
Senator Corman,
The vote,
Primary committee, please.
they just did it. I don't know what it was. Okay. DHE staff, I think, is on their way up. Or triple E.
Move favorable.
you question
Where can these be used?
Everywhere,
everywhere in the state.
Everywhere.
every jurisdiction.
Are these folks from?
Yes.
Okay, and does a local jurisdiction have to any
So
for-profit, any?
if float, no, it's the same way the federal one is done. So it's either DHCD or the local housing authority.
Local housing authority has to own its own and manage its own.
No, it's just the vouchers.
Got
It's
it.
not owning properties. It's intended to be the same as the federal program. It's just extra money because the federal program is significantly oversubscribed.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Hi, thank you for being here. You know the vote? What was the vote total?
It was unanimous downstairs.
All right. All those in favor? Opposed? 2 opposed. Okay. We're all set.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect.
Yep, you can send it on out to the floor.
Thank you.
All right. All right, we have that REIT bill that we've been talking about earlier. So just in general, we have, and Johansson, why don't you come on up? In general, Westfield malls, right? We got 3 of them in the state. There were an Australian REIT. Now they're not. There were certain provisions that allowed things to work better for them. Now that they're not, they're worried about whether the tax treatment is going to be the same. The state has been charging them as, even though they're not Australian anymore, has been charging them the same way that they have been for the last couple of years as if they were. So this is a continuation of a constant of an existing practice and a clarification. Mr. Hanson, can you add any of that?
And the policy in the bill is exactly the same as the multi-state tax commission policy with respect to the taxation of captive REITs. Maryland adopted their bill in 2007, which did not include the provision that's on the bottom of page 2 and 3. Multi-state tax commission in 2008 studied this issue, which was a national issue for states, and adopted the provisions on pages 2 and 3. This would bring it into conformity and fix our problem, which maintains our status the same.
Okay. Any questions?
Favorable.
All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, thank you. That concludes, unless you want to bring back that other one right now.
And they didn't have a crossfire.
There was no crossfall, right?
Correct.
Correct.
I don't mind. I'll get an AG.
So you just wait.
No, you can do it. I'm also good at AG.
You want to vote? Okay. Move favorable as amended on 122.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good.
Chairman,
Yep.
so earlier I asked old 612. That was the Eastern Shore.
Yes,
Folks.
yes.
One of my counties responded, they were not interested. The other did not respond. I cannot see if there's any challenges other than an increase to the revenues of those counties. Is there an issue? I can't.
What's the title of the bill? I don't think it was mine, so I don't.
Eastern Shore Code Counties, maximum hotel rental tax rate. Code counties.
So, well, you were just, the reason you were looking at it is you wanted to see if you wanted your counties added to it.
Yes,
And at this point,
no.
no one wants to.
Calvert at this point does not, and then I hadn't heard from Charles, but
Okay, so you're fine with letting it go.
I think I am.
No room for thinking here today.
No. I just said, is there any impact? I see with the increase for the jurisdictions, but there's no other.
Not to your counties, right?
Yeah.
Right, it only affects these couple
The four
counties.
counties. Caroline, Kent, Queen Anne's and Worcester.
All right, I'm good.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Senate Bill 612.
Hold on, I'm filling in for Kim here on this.
Original budget.
Can we?
Unanimous.
We have another technical one?
No.
It did have its.
Oh, so you're just telling us there was a technical now. Okay, we got this?
No, I need to see the hands again.
Hands who are against it? Quarterman.
Thank you.
Okay, on the REIT bill, there was a technical amendment, so when we did that, it was passed with the technical amendment.
Yes.
Okay, all right, very good. That concludes our voting session.
What's the bill number on the REITs bill?